I usually don't talk about panel selections at the circuit court level, but I think I really need to talk about this now because Smith and Wesson just got screwed. Let's go ahead and talk about it. What's up, Wolverines? Welcome back to the channel. My name is John Crump. I'm an investigative journalist and I write about gun stuff, mostly 2A stuff. If you like what I do here on this channel, John Crump News, I would appreciate it if you give me a big thumbs up, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. It really does help. Today we're going to be talking about Roberts versus Smith and Wesson, which is definitely an interesting case when you look up the makeup of the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals panel. The case stems from a murderer using a Smith & Wesson M&P15 to kill 7 people at a 4th of July parade in Highland Park, Illinois in 2022. You're probably familiar with that whole situation. As with our long-standing policy on this channel, I will not mention the murderer's name. But one of the victim's family filed suit against Smith & Wesson Red Dot Arms and Bud's Gun Shop in state court. Smith & Wesson particularly is being charged with violating the Illinois Consumer Fraud and Deceptive Business Practices Act, which is a state level law. Also, Bud's Gun Shop and Red Dot Arms is being charged or being sued over aiding and abetting the guy that actually did the shooting, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. Smith and Wesson is trying to get the case moved to federal court. At the state level court, they don't have a good shot of winning because of the makeup of the state level judges. But in federal court, they might win. Smith and Wesson asked a federal district court judge to move the case to the federal level where they have a lot better chance of winning. That district court judge agreed with the plaintiffs and said that it has to stay at the state level. But he did stay his decision, giving time for Smith and Wesson to appeal to the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals, which they did. The plaintiff in the case wanted that stay lifted, but as the judge correctly pointed out, if he lifted the stay, it would take away Smith and Wesson's right to appeal his verdict because it would automatically get remanded down to the state court level. Now we know the 3-judge panel at the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals that is going to hear Smith and Wesson's appeal, and it is not good news for Smith and Wesson, Buds, or Red Dot Arms. If I was an attorney, there's 3 judges on the 7th I would want to avoid if I am actually for the gun side. And unfortunately, Smith and Wesson got all 3 judges. The first guy is Frank Easterbrook, who is a clown. He is a Republican appointed by Reagan, but he is definitely not pro-gun. But Reagan wasn't pro-gun either, so that kind of makes sense. He is definitely going to go against Smith and Wesson because, like I said, he always rules against the Second Amendment. He hates the Bruen decision and he hates gun rights. So I have no doubt that he is going to rule against Smith and Wesson. The second judge in the case is David Hamilton. Now let's go ahead and talk about Mr. Hamilton here. Honorable David Hamilton is a Barack Obama appointee who does not like guns at all. He has never ever ruled in favor of the Second Amendment or any type of pro-gun case. He has never ruled for a gun manufacturer, never ruled anything on the pro-gun side. So that is a bad bet right there, which means right now Smith & Wesson is 2 people in the hole where they have a massive uphill battle to fight. Let's get to the third person who happens to be a Biden appointee. Yes, Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe Biden, appointed this judge who is named Josh Kohler, who is also very anti-gun. So, Smith & Wesson has got 3 anti-gun judges on this panel, which means that they are probably going to lose. I'm pretty sure they know that, and they are already planning on asking for an en banc. An en banc simply means that the full bench of the 7th will hear the case and decide whether to remand it down to a state court or not. I can already tell you that these 3 judges probably will remand it down to a state court. Could they decide to keep it at the federal level? They could, but I think that is highly unlikely. But like I say, anyone who tells you they know what a court is going to do is full of BS, because you can never ever tell for sure what a court is going to do. But the most likely outcome of this is the three judge panel saying that this case must be remanded back down to the state level court to decide, which would be a bad thing for Smith and Wesson. This is not a good case for Smith and Wesson because in Illinois there's a bunch of anti-gun judges. Think about it: you have Chicago and the other areas. Highland Park is near Chicago, so you're gonna pull an anti-gun judge, and they're probably gonna fine for the plaintiffs against Smith and Wesson and against Bud's Gun Shop and against Red Dot Arms. Bud's Gun Shop was the place where the shooter bought the firearm, and Red Dot Arms is the place that did the transfer. It is worth noting that the shooter did have a firearms owner's ID card, which shows you that the fire owner's ID card does not work at all because he had one, but yet he still committed a crime with his firearm. So that goes to show you that it doesn't work. I do think Smith and Wesson has some protection here with the PLCAA, which is a federal law that's supposed to protect gun companies from being sued over stuff that's out of the control. It's kind of like suing Ford for somebody driving a car drunk, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So they do have a good defense against that, but at the state level, I don't think that they're going to take that into consideration. And that's one of the reasons why Smith and Wesson is so hard up on trying to get this case moved to the federal level so that you can invoke the PLCAA and possibly get the lawsuit thrown out. But we'll have to see. The bottom line is this is a very bad panel for Smith and Wesson, and they are facing a very big hill to climb to get this to remain on the federal level. Like I said, it's probably going to get remanded down to the state level, but Smith and Wesson can always ask for an en banc. Whether the Seventh Circuit of Court of Appeals grants them that en banc, I don't know. The Court of Appeals does not have to grant an en banc. They can just say, we're not going to grant the en banc. You have to live by what the panel decision says, which is going down to the state level. Then they can appeal to the Supreme Court, but I don't think anything will come of that either. What they do is file a writ of certiorari at the Supreme Court, but I don't see that happening. So this is not good for Smith and Wesson. This panel is the absolute worst panel that you can get, but we'll have to see how it goes. Alright guys, that is it for today. So stay ever vigilant, stay ever free, keep in the fight. I am out of here. See ya.